878-5104 or go to facebook.com/91.3 WBNY and comment there. That's facebook.com/91.3 WBNY.
All right, welcome to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here, your host here. Welcome you to our new broadcast focused on providing insight into events shaping our national and regional world and the facts behind those events and policies that are shaping our world for today and for tomorrow. Join us weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. following Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Program. And of course, you know our program is live, so you can call in, you can join our discussion. We really hope that you will. Our number here again is 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. We're also here with Norm McCarter, who is our in-studio audience of one. Welcome, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare, and good morning, sir.
He just floated in from one of those spaceships. You know, he had everybody out in the quad was, oh my God, there's Norm. No, I'm teasing.
It'd be nice if it was like
it would be for anybody to have it like that. It would be great.
Yes, sir.
And of course, we're here with the person who really does have these 21st century skills, our IT engineer, Willie H. How you doing out there, Willie?
I'm doing good now. Got everything all set and ready. Feeling good. Call us, y'all. 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104.
And every now and then you ought to call in and give Willie some love. He was in here at 8:15, getting stuff ready. The show don't start till 9. He was in here, you know, moving stuff around and getting stuff organized. And that's a lot of extra effort, you know, a lot of, of discipline and persistence and so on. So
thank you.
Give him some love, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Big Willie.
And so I wanted to take a bit of today's program and I wanted to talk a little bit about where we are with the Trump stuff. But before I get there, you know, we've had these 5 hostages that were held by Iran that have been released this week.
Wow.
And now see, Willie, Willie just behaved like a citizen. You know, you would think that a citizen would think something good happened, and they would say, wow, great, super, you know, and so on, right? But that's not what the Republican citizens said.
Whoa, what did they say?
The Republican citizens said, see, you freed those hostages in a deal for $6 billion, and now you've created a market. You know, they're going to be out here every time they can find an American. They're going to kidnap the American, and they're going to pimp us for another $6 billion.
Well,
right?
Partially true, but they not commended him or awarded him for actually getting Americans free. So, but I understand.
What are they doing?
Well, basically, what they're doing is they're saying, well, here's what can happen now. Every American that they can find, they're going to try to make money, and I get it. I get it.
So, you know, that's the rub, right? The Republicans immediately went to that card.
And of course they're going to do that.
Now, you do know that Donald Trump freed some hostages during his administration.
Uh-oh, how much was it?
And I couldn't find the money here, but I know that there was a deal that was done with North Korea. They met with North Korea during the course of the release. They did a trade agreement, you know, that
must have been one of Trump boys.
Right. You know, so whenever Trump is doing something, it's always okay. Yeah. You know, it's justified. But when Biden does something, it's not justified. Right. It's really important that we understand context here.
Right.
These American citizens that were also Iranian citizens. They were traveling back and forth between America and Iran, visiting their family.
Oh, I get it. The families and
so now you have these government forces, you know, these Defense Department or intelligence, whatever they call themselves, forces, and they snatch these American citizens up and say, I don't care if you are an American citizen, we're keeping you. We're saying that you're a spy because you're an American citizen and you're walking around on our territory. That makes you a spy.
I got it.
So that was the basis.
Right.
To get these people out, you have very limited options, right? One option would be to roll in with 1,500 troops, blow a city up, and hope
a lot of innocent people die,
and hope your people don't die too, right? And that's one way to do it. But who's going to do that? That's insane, you know, to do that.
Right.
So you have to work out some kind of a deal.
Right.
Now, the deal that was worked out, it's just like what was done during the Biden or the Obama administration when they did a deal. They essentially released money that belonged to the Iranians in the first place.
Oh, okay.
That was the previous deal that was done under Obama.
Right.
I just want to give us this as context. What happened under the Obama administration is you had the Reagan administration going back to the early 1980s. Remember, you had the Iran hostage crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what Ronald Reagan did is he sold some weapons that otherwise Iran would not have been eligible to buy.
Mm-hmm.
He sold these weapons and then ate the cost.
Mm.
So I sell you weapons, but then you don't pay for the weapons. I pay for the weapons some other way. In other words, the weapons are being purchased from Rockwell, Dow, Chemical, these
Mm-hmm.
defense industry, folks. They're the ones who actually are the source of the weapons. The payment goes to them. So what Reagan did is instead of I think it was something like $1.7 billion, in money that was Iranian money, money that was in Iranians' hands. They sent this money to the United States to U.S. banks, not to the United States as a country,
Right.
but to U.S. banks so that they could then pay the bill to these American defense contractors for these weapons that they were buying.
Right.
What Reagan did is he put a sanction or a freeze on those accounts and then told the Iranians you can't get access to your money until you free these hostages. So the $1.7 billion was not American money. It was Iran's own money
anyway
that the Americans froze in American accounts.
Gotcha.
Doesn't that feel different than you taking $1.7 million out of the U.S. Treasury and essentially paying a hostage ransom, to the Iranians? Doesn't that feel a lot different?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It was the $1.7 billion was the Iranians' own money. Well, in this case that we're dealing with right now, there's $400 million that was on the table.
Right.
That was money that was frozen in American accounts, but it was Iran's money. Like if you have money and to make your business transactions easier, you open up an account in a bank in another country. So let's say, to pick a country, Nepal. You open up a bank account in Nepal. Nepal gets mad at you because you said something about somebody's mother, and so they froze your money in your account.
Right.
Right? So if you get the money back, they're not doing you a favor. It's your money.
Right.
All they're doing is ending something that they were doing to you rather than doing something for you. That's what went on in this hostage, release situation. You had $400 million that was Iranian money in American banks, and the Biden administration negotiated a deal to get 5 of these American hostages released, or detainees they call them, to get them released. Negotiated that deal. In return, they released, to a certain extent, the $400 million that America was holding. Now, when I say to a certain extent is they're not actually releasing the money into the hands of the Iranians. What they're saying to the Iranians is you can only use this money for humanitarian purposes. Now, keep in mind, the Iranian money was not placed in American banks to go do wonderful things in the United States. That's not why the money was there. The money was there to pay bills. Right. I'm buying some, Mohawk, missiles or whatever, cost me $60 million. I got money in an American bank, I write you a check.
Right.
Rather than write you a check from Iran, because that check might bounce, right? So, that's why they put the money in the country that they're going to do the business in.
Right.
So here we have, again, the Republicans being so disingenuous. The Biden administration is a sissy administration. They're soft, on terrorism. They're soft on crime. They're soft on this. They're soft on that. They shouldn't be doing this. They should just go in and kill a bunch of Iranians and take those hostages. That almost never works. Now, I give, the Obama administration credit. Their military players figured out where this Osama bin Laden player was. I mean, right down to what cave he was hanging out in. They literally figured out where the guy was and when he was home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how they do this stuff, okay? I don't have that kind of technological wizardry. But somebody had that kind of wizardry, and they actually landed in Iraq, literally on foot, went into this man's cave, and the guy, he said, "No, you're going to take me out. I'm not going into your custody or whatnot." Mm-hmm. So they had to shoot him up, and they killed him. But my point is that they were able to do that with no casualties amongst the Iraqis, no other casualties amongst the Iraqis, and no casualties amongst the American forces. How often does that happen?
It's very rare.
Once every 6 billion years, right?
Yeah.
6 billion, maybe not even that often, but my point in saying this is you can't keep whining that you got Americans held illegally in other countries and you need to do everything you can to get them released. And then the Americans use that country's own money and use that as the leverage to get these people released. How are you going to complain about that's, creating a market for more hostage taking? Yeah. It's your own money. You're not making any money. It's just having your own money put back in your own hands.
Yeah, it's just something for them to say. They can't say anything. They want to create something negative, but this is a true positive for us and what we've done.
And the reaction that Willie had when we first began this conversation, he said, "Wow, that's the reaction that should be had by all Americans right now. Yeah. They should be saying, wow, great job, good going, America." Right?
But they always find a way to try to minimize anything.
They try to discredit it,
Yeah.
And that just should not be. We should be better than that, right? Yeah. And that's setting aside whatever your feelings are about our policies concerning, Iraq or Iran or whatever other country. That's a separate issue. Yeah. I could still dislike Iran, but work out a deal to be able to give Iran access to its own money in order for me to be able to get 5 hostages out of Iran.
This is really, really hard to do, getting our hostages back. Anytime our people are held, it's a victory for us.
Remember the Brittany Griner case?
Oh, yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
The real tall lady who's the really, really, really tall lady who is a basketball player, right? Who apparently was, she had some sniffing. She wasn't caught sniffing, but she had some devices that you use for sniffing.
She had a little paraphernalia.
Right, marijuana oil. I don't quite know how you sniff oil, but whatever it was they were talking about, she was accused of doing that. Yeah. They killed this. They held this child for almost 10 months.
Man, it was crazy.
Right, and it's a young woman now. We're talking about somebody who's like 24, 25 years old. They held this lady for 8 or 9 or 10 months. Yeah. And the Americans had to work out a deal to be able to get that done. And you had all of this American press every day. Oh, poor Brittany Griner, Brittany Griner. When they finally got her released, what did the Republicans do? They say, "Oh, see there, his administration's soft on terrorists and whatnot, right?" And they discredit, what the administration was getting done. So I just wanted to make sure we got some context out here for people that this was a good thing that got done. We should be glad that this got done. We should not be mad that this got done. And we should not, unless you are saying that America should go down the bully, path and just come in with a bunch of troops, find out where somebody is and then just make a military move on them. And if the people get killed, they just get killed. That I just don't see that makes any sense as a policy, for America to do. I hope that we couldn't hear Willie's conversation on the air that was going on there. That sounded pretty loud to me.
Yeah. No, I was off, right? I think I was off.
No, right over here, there's a green light. No, I'm teasing.
Okay, you're teasing me. Okay. Hey, we do have a caller. I got a young lady that I'm actually going to be interviewing after this show. So,
excellent. Yeah. Outstanding.
So go ahead, Kimmy. I think you're on.
Oh, she's still on. Okay, great. Hi, caller. Are you
Hello,
there?
Mr. Hare.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you? And
Uh,
hello, 91.3 FM listeners. I'm
Absolutely.
Temi Lopez, and my song "Lean on Me" is going to be premiering at 10:15 a.m. on WBNY.
Outstanding. Lean on me.
Yes, lean on me.
All right. We know that song.
I think she got a new event.
She got a new version of it, though.
Your
Right?
rendition has got like a
Oh
reggae.
yeah, no, it's a completely different song.
It got like an Afro beast.
Oh, she
reggae
said it's
feel.
a different song.
Yeah.
It
lean
just
on
has the same
Completely different.
title. Right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, same title. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, Kimmy. Thank you for calling in. We'll hear her song after Mr. Harshaw, Living for the People. Call in live, y'all. 716-878-5104. All right, Kimmy. I'll see you at 10:15.
All right.
Okay then. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So when I was writing today's program, Norm's going to think that I'm crazy because he's supposed to be the discipline in the program. I'm sorry. He's supposed to rein me in. So Norm, I apologize for this lead in to today's program. But here's what I wrote down: Mr. Trump, will you please shut up? Just shut up. Now, I don't like Donald Trump. You all know that, right? But me liking or disliking Donald Trump is one thing. When I see what he's doing, to me, it's a person who's got a death wish that he literally wants to crash and burn. And I hate to see that. I hate to see anybody like almost deliberately self-destruct.
Yeah, but you know what, Mr. Hare? Even though you say that, but no, you say that, but when I was talking to a guy that, of course, for Trump, they'll say, "Oh, Trump, yeah, he's unorthodox, he does stupid things, but we like him because he get results."
They always say that, but
they know the man.
For me, they're saying that stuff, and it's a disingenuous statement.
Right.
That's really not what is going on. They like Trump because Trump represents a willingness to do something that they want to see done.
Absolutely.
And they don't care what other consequences occur.
Right. Absolutely.
They want this done. Right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to appoint Hitler because Hitler says that Jews are terrible people and we're going to free up a lot of money and you're going to be able to make some of that money the Jews are making.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to put the Jews, on death trains, and so on, right? That's what they were doing in Germany.
Right.
That's similarly, not as to that extent, but the same idea is what's going on where these Americans are so desirous to return America to being the Ozzie and Harriet America, where a certain set of people had a control over all of the processes, and you didn't have, Barack Obama's becoming president and Kamala Harris becoming vice president. They don't want that. They want to go back to, Dwight D. Eisenhower's America.
Yeah,
right?
I got a picture of Obama and Trump, and I could see from a lot of 50% of Americans, and maybe even more, the X is on Obama because they want Trump.
Right. See, so that's what's happening. But here's what Trump has been doing. I'm sure your parents told you this, that sometimes you just need to shut up. Just don't say anything, because whatever you say can and will be used against you in some court, right? So this article was written by Reba Shah for the Salon magazine. Trump acknowledged that lawyers and members of his campaign staff had told him that he had lost the 2020 presidential election. Remember now, the script that we've been hearing for months is that, well, poor Donnie believed that he won the election, that he couldn't have lost the election. And all these statements and things that Donnie did, they were just free speech things, that Donnie was just expressing his feelings about what really went on in the election. And, he just believed it in his heart that he won the election. That's the schema that we're being told, right? So Trump says with regard to these lawyers, now he's surrounded by dozens of the most highly paid lawyers in the country. He's got surrounding him. They're supposed to be the best players in the world at their game. He says, Donald Trump, in many cases, I didn't respect him. I respected many others who said that the election was rigged. And I believed them. And I didn't believe these other people that said the election wasn't rigged. And I didn't believe those 61 courts that I sued. I sued. I can't say it right. That I sued. Who also said that the election wasn't rigged. 61 different courts said the election was not rigged. Right? All these attorneys that work for Donald Trump, probably being paid American taxpayer dollars, all of these attorneys tell him the election was not rigged. You lost the election. He's saying, well, I believe Sidney Powell. You know, I knew she was crazy. I know I said she was crazy, but I still believed her, you know, rather than, you know, I don't even know who the lawyers were around him that said things right, you know. But this is the craziest. He was on Meet the Press. I think her name is Kristen Welker, who's the, she's got a new a show she's the host on. No, this was Meet the Press. That's her show that aired on I think it was this past Sunday. So prosecutors in the federal case have pointed out that Trump received advice from legal counsel that his electoral defeat was legitimate. His campaign faced dozens of legal defeats in courtrooms across the country. Despite all of that, Trump continued to push out these falsehoods. So the assertion that Trump was pushing out, was saying things that he honestly believed, is belied by the fact that dozens of lawyers, not just people, dozens of lawyers, and 61 different courts around the country said the election was not rigged, that it was a clean, honest election. The cyber technician, who's, I guess, even better at this stuff than Willie H. is, who ran a cyber division or office for Donald Trump, that guy went through the election protocols in every state and said that this was the cleanest election that the country had ever had since they had been accurately trying to track what went on in elections. The cleanest election ever. Trump still kept saying that the election was rigged, right? Even though no one, him or anyone else, has produced any evidence of any rigging of the election, where they have found some cases of voter fraud, you know, where somebody voted for their wife, you know, or voted for their daughter or something, somebody died and you voted for them anyway. Even when those cases occurred, they were invariably cases where it was Republicans who did it. It wasn't Democrats and progressives who did it. So the federal cases against Donald Trump get stronger nearly every time Trump does an interview. A comment was made by James Sample, who is a professor of constitutional law at Hofstra University. He said one of the key premises of these cases is that numerous aides, allies, and attorneys told Donald Trump that he had lost the election, and he nonetheless kept repeating these lies over and over and over again. As Professor Sample suggests, Jack Smith, the special counsel on the case against Trump, he said the case is predicated on the idea that Trump knowingly spread false election claims even after being repeatedly told by close aides that he had lost the election. That's the important thing, that Trump knowingly said things that were false. Not only did he knowingly say things that were false, he rallied people in the tens of thousands at different meetings he held around the country around the premise of something that was false. He said things that were false. He told people out and out lies. He said things that happened that did not happen over and over and over again. And as a result of that, people organized in the society. Proud Boys organized, Wisconsin Wolverines organized, Oath Keepers organized, Pimps for Trump, you know, organized, whoever it was. I made that one up, right? Although that may have been true. But, yeah, he Trump maybe he may get them, make them vice president and whatnot, you know. So the core of this thing is that people got hurt. That's what led to the January 6th insurrection. And we had hundreds of people get hurt, not just a couple of people. We had hundreds of people get hurt. We had 140 police officers that received some kind of medical treatment. 5 people died as a result of what went on January 6, 2021.
We just got a comment in Yvonne Jarrett to us. She said he tried to bully the election.
Right. And he's not just trying, he's continuing to do this. He's literally threatening America that if I don't win, not just get reappointed, if I don't win all of these court cases where you all say that I'm a criminal and say that I need to go to jail, if that happens to me, if I get convicted and you all put some kind of, keep lock, detention on me, my Americans are going to rise up as a righteous wave, and there's going to be hell to pay, in the United States. Now, that should not be the case. Nobody in the United States should be stupid enough to even break a pencil on behalf of Donald Trump.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But it may happen. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say good morning, Yvonne.
Yvonne.
That's my cousin. I just want to say
hey, Yvonne.
Thanks for calling in, Didi.
You have astute cousins.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So, but it's important that this penetrates into the consciousness of people in our society. Despite criminal indictments in 3 different states and the District of Columbia, Trump has continued to do TV interviews where he talks about these cases and defends his alleged criminal actions, an approach that legal experts just tell him, this is just stupid. Every time you run your mouth, you say something that contradicts something that you said the last time you ran your mouth. All you're doing is making matters worse. So they refer to it as Trump putting himself in more and more jeopardy. Earlier this summer, Trump appeared on Fox News discussing the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, telling the host that he wasn't able, this is so stupid, he wasn't able to hand over the government records to the federal officials because he had been very busy. Now, you're no longer president of the United States. You don't have a job.
Oh, my God.
You don't read.
Well, he's busy getting his stuff in order. He gets love, so he got to his life, his regular life.
You're dumb as a rock, and
he ain't that dumb. He make a lot of money.
He's definitely clever.
He's clever.
Right. He may not be intelligent, but he's definitely clever, right?
Yeah, that's a good
one. And, it's, but he was too busy to give back the documents that he should not have taken in the first place. Just for the audience to understand the mechanism here. So you don't keep getting this twisted up in the rhetoric that runs around the media reports. Here's what happened. The end of Trump's administration now came. He had months, at least from November 4th of 2020, from then until January 19th of 2021, he had all that time to gather up whatever belonged to him, move it to whatever needed to be moved, take it to wherever it needed to be taken, and clean house and set things up for the next administration. He waited until 2 or 3 days before the end of his administration, then tries to clean stuff up, and he went and got banker's boxes, or had somebody get these banker's boxes. You ever see these crates where they put bank records in? He got boxes like that, I think 45 of them. And he put all of these federal documents in these bankers' boxes and took them to Mar-a-Lago. There was no reason for him to take them to Mar-a-Lago. He don't read. So what was he keeping these documents for? He was doing it because he felt that he could use those documents to his advantage at some point in his post-presidential years.
Well, Yvette said, she commented again, she said he's busy playing golf.
And she's right about that. And not playing well. I heard he lost to somebody he was trying to hustle this past weekend. Right. But listen, why don't we take our quick break so that we don't do what some people here often do, which is to run over the break. And let's take care of our sponsors. So don't go away. We will see you on the other side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY.
91.3 FM WBNY is proud to present Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Award-winning investigative journalism.
Is the NRA imploding?
Providing relevant analysis that makes you think.
Secret State Department documents, including evidence of U.S. war crimes.
Fact-finding reports you will not hear elsewhere. Democracy Now! Airs Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo.
Hi, this is Kemi Lopez, and my song Lean On Me is dropping on September 20th. You can hear it here on your radio station, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
Ready for radio that's challenging, innovative, and encouraging? Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan Hare. Join me right here, 91.3 FM WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM WBNY. All right, welcome back to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan Hare, your host. We're here with Norma Carter, who is our in-studio audience of one. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
And, of course, we're here with our engineer, our IT specialist, Willie H. How you doing out there, Willie?
Hey, how you guys doing? Living for the People with L. Nathan here. Y'all, we here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Call us up, 716-878-5104.
So, I was on this point about Trump claiming that he wasn't able to hand over these government records because he had been busy. The guy who no longer had a job, who's not running anything, who's just playing golf. He was too busy to be able to go through the documents. He didn't need to go through the documents. I just want you to understand that. All of the documents belong to the federal government, all of them. Literally, the documents belong to the American public. The custodian of the documents is the National Archives and Records Administration for the federal government. So there was no need for Trump to go through the documents. He didn't need to move the documents from the White House to his house in Florida in the first place. The documents should have stayed right where they were. He should have just called the National Archives and Records Administration and say, I got 45 boxes of records and whatnot. Where do you guys want me to have this stuff taken, or are you going to come and get it yourself? And they would have come within 15 minutes and gotten those documents, and none of this stuff about Mar-a-Lago would ever have occurred. We wouldn't have heard any of this stuff. Go ahead.
Mr. Hare, when it really boils down, I just hearing so much about what's going on with Trump, and even going back to the fact that when he states that he didn't believe that he lost the election, I think he might be, genuinely, I think he's the most narcissistic man, that there's no way that you could do this kind of stuff. I think he convinces himself to believe it because of his narcissism.
Well, I hear that.
I just don't understand.
There's certain kind of, there's nuances to belief, like you can say, I can't believe I lost to that son of a gun. He's a knucklehead. How could I have lost to him? But you still know you lost. Even though you feel disbelief, you know you lost.
But I'm saying that he, even though he genuinely knows that he lost, convinces himself that he won. He thinks he's so great.
And I'd be willing to even buy into that if there was some record that supported that.
Yeah.
But there are records where Donald Trump has said out of his own mouth that he knew he lost the election. He actually said after the election to a woman, I can't believe that I lost to him. Not just that he lost the election, but that he lost to Joe Biden.
Mr. Hare, I'm just trying to create more content.
I know. That's
voice of the people.
I'm with you. Right? So, but what it does show is Donald Trump's lack of respect for the federal government, for the government processes,
yes, sir.
For subpoenas, for the National Archives and Records Administration, for the U.S. Marshals.
Yeah.
The U.S. Marshals show up at your house to come and get stuff from you, and you are still acting like you're the aggrieved party and that they should be hopping at your, when you snap your fingers, they should be hopping at your
It's
your
still
behest.
narcissism. He should feel like
no,
he's above that.
Right.
You know?
That's the word right there, above. Mr. Trump, he probably saw his father do business and people around him do business, and they believe they are above the law. They believe whatever we want to get done, we get it done. We don't care about it. We can always find a way to go against the grain or go against the law. Yeah, I think that's the way they think.
I agree. The Republicans have shown you that. We've talked about this many times, and it just keeps re-expressing itself. The Republicans have shown you that if there's any process where there is a decision that has to be made by a majority of people, if the majority of the people that are in that particular body that have control over a process are Republicans, the Republicans will come together and figure out a way to manipulate that or shape that process so that it guarantees the Republicans' position, and it guarantees that the Democrats' or progressive position is going to be shot down every single time. They are literally disqualifying people from being able to vote. People that already vote right now are on voter registration rosters right now. They're disqualifying people who are already registered voters right now. They're taking away the routes that people normally use to vote. Remember we talked about in Louisiana, there were something like 732 election districts in Louisiana. They got down to 6 drop boxes in Louisiana.
Wow.
For a population that was served by 732 places where you could go and drop off your mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
Now it's down to 6.
They want to create log jams.
And
so,
Louisiana's a big state.
Yeah.
So instead of you having an election district that you could walk to or take your bike to that's like a 1 or 2 miles away or a half a mile away, in Buffalo you have election districts that are only 3 or 4 blocks away from you. What would happen if you went from, I think it's 450 or so election districts in the city of Buffalo, if it went down to 6? And that's just the city of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And you had to find a way to get to those 6 boxes, stand in line just to put your mail-in ballot in the mail where you're doing the job of the Postal Service. You're not even giving it to the post office. You're giving it directly to the election bureau, bureau itself, to the Board of Election itself. That's the situation that we have created in this country, and we keep allowing this to occur. I say we. I hate using that word "we" because I'm not in it. I'm not the one doing this stuff, but it's being done to us by this cast of characters, and we have to find the will to resist it. It's not enough to sit around, at your tea table or your back porch or at the barber shop or whatever and make comments about this stuff. That's not enough. You got to vote. You got to call people. You got to organize. You got to make your will known to people that bad things will happen to them electorally if they don't respect your rights as a citizen. Go ahead.
Well, our WBNY Facebook viewer, Yvonne Jarrett, once again, she said Trump administration assistant personal secretary said Trump would write to-do list on the documents every day.
She's right. That was reported yesterday. Think about what I told you that my take on this is that Trump simply disrespects the government, disrespects the National Archives Administration, disrespects, the processes and the laws that we're supposed to be governed by. He just doesn't have any respect for it at all. He has contempt for it. What better exemplifies the contempt that Trump has than he, during his administration, was given briefing materials from whoever, General Milley or whoever the Joint Chiefs of Staff's, person is. He's getting these briefing reports, and he's actually taking the reports and making had some thoughts, and he writes on the back of the classified document some notes about, I need for you to go to the store and get this. I got some stuff at the cleaners. You need to go to the cleaners. And I don't think I gassed up the car. So I want you to go gas up the car.
Wow.
Because it's a to-do list, right?
Wow.
What do you have on your to-do list?
Right.
I mean, you may have some work things, But you got other things you got to
Yeah,
do.
but you wouldn't do that on your important papers like that.
You would never do it on classified documents if you had respect for those classified documents. But this, again, as Yvette is pointing out, shows you
He's above
how
the law.
How much disdain. There's just disdain that he has for those processes.
I'm the God here. I rule everything.
It's exactly what you guys have been saying. He thinks that he's the Lord of the Flies. You know, he's the guy, and so on. So there is something that they refer to. This was what the attorney James White was talking about earlier. Something to refer to as it's known as an admission against interest. It's a legal term, an admission against interest. And what it means is that you make a statement outside of the court or a court that is actually against your own interest. So you're in court right now for disrespecting subpoenas, obstructing justice, for manipulating or interfering in an electoral process. You're in court right now for those things. Then you do things that show you, or you tell people that you did something that interferes with the electoral process, that interferes with governmental administration, that interferes with the government's right to possess documents that belong to the government and so on, that you say out of your own mouth that you did these things. That's called a admission of, what do you call it? An admission against interest. Wow. Against your own interest. So when he goes to trial, they're going to have recordings of what Trump said. And they're going to say, Donald Trump says that he respects America. But he didn't get the boxes back because he was busy. And he took the boxes because he thought, well, I may have had, one of my drawings, when I was trying to draw a mouse. And I think I might have left one in one of these boxes. So I just took all of the boxes, all 45 of the boxes with me.
But just in case, I wouldn't, Mr. Hare, I wouldn't put that past him. Like I got some documents. I wrote some important things down there. Let me take this. I wouldn't put it past Trump. I wouldn't.
I'm telling you that this stuff that Trump has done, here's the other side of it that I want us to understand, because you're going to hear this in the public as this goes forward. The people that love Donald Trump are going to say, well, so what? So what if he took the 45 boxes of documents that belong to the federal government?
Right.
He didn't kill anybody with them.
Right.
He didn't rob any banks with them.
Right.
It's just a process. It's just a procedure. It's one of those tiny laws. It's like when you lie to your mother, and then you say it was not really a lie, it was a fib. And my guess is that when we say the word fib, we mean it was a small lie, not a big lie, right? And so that's what Trump is implying to the public, and that the public is many people in the public are picking this theme up.
Yeah.
That maybe he did that stuff, but it wasn't that big a deal. It was a small, infraction. It was no big. If anybody else had done this, if Obama had done this, if Joe Biden they're actually trying to impeach Joe Biden, and they're trying to find a charge to impeach him with. They've already, announced that they're impeaching Joe Biden, and they still haven't figured out what charges they're going to impeach him for. How can you impeach somebody with no charges?
Right.
Because they can't prove anything. They don't have anything. They've got things that they say imply that Joe Biden knew about his son's activities and so on, that imply that. Well, if his son is in a meeting with one of his business relationships, and from that meeting he calls his father and says, "Dad, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah." Just like when I talked to my daughter, right? I had the same kind of conversation. So we're not talking about her business. We're just talking on the same day that she's got business going on. She's also talking to me about our personal business, right? Well, that's what Joe Biden's son was doing when he called his father. Now, whether he was doing this because he wanted to imply to the people in the audience of folks that could hear the phone call that he had a good relationship with his father. And so you guys ought to trust me to be an advocate for you because you can see that I'm really cool with my father. That may be what he was implying, but that has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a father who gets a phone call from his son. Son says, "How you doing?" He says, "I'm doing great. How you doing?" And they have, a 2 or 3 minute conversation, and he moves on, and his son moves on. What's illegal? What's unseemly about that? Nothing at all, right? But that's what people like Comer and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy and these kinds of people, Lauren Boebert, that's what they're trying to make into something insidious for something and we're talking about over a 10-year period, we're talking about 20 phone calls that they've recorded, they have a record of when they went, how they get your phone records and so on. They got 20 phone calls where Hunter Biden was in some country, wherever it was he was trying to do business, and he called his father from wherever it was that he was having this meeting with. Mm-hmm. 20 times over a 10-year period. How many times have you talked to your daughter, Willie, this month?
Yeah, probably about that.
Now, we got 20 days have gone by in the month. 20. He's already had 20 contacts with his daughter this month.
Probably more because we call each other 2-3 times a day.
Right. So we're talking about 20 phone calls over the course of a 10-year period.
Yeah.
But notice how the media doesn't give you that context that I just gave you. They just say, well, Trump was on the phone, with his son, while he was in his meeting with Burisma. And
Biden was on the phone.
Biden was on the phone with his son, and this meeting with during this meeting with Burisma, and who knows what they were talking about. Now they have other records of the actual call. They know what he talked about. They know verbatim what he talked about. They know he didn't talk about any business in those phone calls. But the media doesn't say that. They just say that there were these 20 phone calls that the Republicans found, and that's evidence, that there may have been some collusion between Joe Biden as vice president and his son and these private businesses. That's the hustle that's going on. Let me just really quickly, we had we have a UN general session going on right now. We do know that, right?
Yeah.
Right? That we're a country.
What are we talking about?
Okay, so they're talking about a whole lot of stuff at the UN thing, but the main thing that's in front of us right now is the hostage stuff that we just talked about. The other main thing is the Ukraine issue. Why is the Ukraine thing an issue? Because since World War II, up until the Russians invaded Ukraine, we had not had a land war where one country invaded another country. We've had terrorist attacks that may have been state-sponsored, sponsored by a country, terrorist attacks against the interests of another country. But we've not had one country actually invade another country to conquer the other country over almost a 70-year period. That was broken last year, February of 2022, when the Russians invaded Ukraine. Here's what the World Assembly is working through. If this is not checked at the door, if they don't stop this process as soon as possible, end this by whatever means necessary, they don't end this Ukraine invasion, this will become the standing policy going forward. Whoever's stronger will behave strongly against whoever is weaker. That's what's going to occur. We're going to unleash. In other words, Pandora's inside the box right now, but you can see light coming out of the box, where energy's coming out of the box. And pretty soon the box is going to be open and all heck is going to break loose.
This is just a question that's, it's going to just how I guess people would think. But I'm just wondering, say we were in the position where it was us that was super strong. Now, I know that we've, throughout our history, we've taken whatever we've wanted, anywhere we wanted to go. But if we were in that position, do you think now we would invade other countries and try to go into foreign lands and take over places
The-
if we were in that position.
The United States now, as it's presently constituted, would never invade another country for the purpose of conquering another country.
Okay.
The United States doesn't roll like that. They used to.
I'm just saying. I
They
mean,
do. That's how we
our
acquired.
history is our history.
That's how we acquired Puerto Rico and
Yeah. I mean,
Papua Guinea and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of places. Samoa, the Samoan Islands.
Yeah.
I mean, we've thrown our fist at people. Willfully in the past.
Yeah.
But that's not the U.S. blueprint. Right now, I don't see that happening anytime in the future.
It was just hypothetical, and I was just kind of just thinking. I mean, Russia doing what they did, going into the Ukraine. I'm wondering what the reason. What did they think? Now, do they think that the surrounding countries are going to look at that?
Remember. There used to be something called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
Oh yeah.
That formed after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine was a part of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics.
Right.
They didn't get free until 1991. When Gorbachev was the president of Russia. So from the Ukrainians' position, they've always wanted to be free of Russia.
Right.
They've been under Russian dominance for centuries.
So
right?
Russia, in a way, is feeling like we've owned you before. I think it's our right to get you back, or something along those lines.
Here's a great example of what you're pointing to, what you're expressing right now. We have this long border with Mexico, like 1,500, 1,700 mile border with Mexico. Mm-hmm. Texas used to be called Mexico. California used to be called Mexico.
Yeah.
Arizona used to be called Mexico.
Yeah.
You getting my point here?
I got it.
See, so what happens if the United States we conquered a bunch of Mexico and made it a part of the United States? The last one that we conquered was like 50 years ago or 60 years ago. We haven't conquered anybody in quite some time. And you Mexicans, y'all got some nice buildings and whatnot. You got roads, you got some cars, but you all aren't that strong. You got oil, you got drug cartels and whatnot. I'm thinking that we would do better if we just went ahead and conquered you too. What would you feel about the United States? If the United States, if Donald Trump decided to roll in and take, not all of Mexico, just take like the province that has Tijuana in it or something else, you would feel like, I can't believe that we're behaving like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would
really,
challenge your identity as a citizen.
This
right?
isn't our identity.
Right.
It just is. But when you go back and you really give it some thought process, it's been our identity.
So it's important for us to understand, not just from the perspective of how would we feel about the United States if we did it to somebody, right? How would you feel if somebody did it to us? What if the Canadians were stronger than they are right now? And they say, well, the New England states used to be a part of Canada. See, we forget our history because I shouldn't say we forget our history. We don't bother to learn our history. Mm-hmm. The War of 1812, which you think of as the French and Indian War, right, was really like the end of the first phase of the American Revolution. This was over the border between the United States and Canada, between parts of Quebec and Vermont and Maine and Connecticut, and so on, right? These were all contested, spaces where Canadians, French people, Indians or Native Americans, and Americans were all contesting, these spaces and so on. How would you feel if the Canadians said, well, I want New York State back. I kind of like New York, and I want Boston too. Give me Boston. And if they just said, well, I just want it because I want it. I don't have any other reason. I don't need another reason. I just want it. That's what Putin said. I don't need another reason.
Yeah.
I just want it.
Yeah.
So I'm taking it, right? That's the situation that we're in right now. Now, why this is important, because the UN, you got maybe 70 countries that have been a part of this collaboration. They didn't all put the kind of money up that the United States put up, but they put something on the table, sent some troops, sent a couple of cannons, whatever it is that they did to support the war effort in the Ukraine. You got that going on right now. You want to keep that union of people, that coalition of people together. So there's got a lot of selling has to be done on what the prospects are of success for the Ukrainians. If it looks like the Ukrainians are not going to have success, people are going to say, why should I keep spending billions of dollars for something that's not going to go anywhere?
But
of course, Dow Chemical wants you to keep spending that money because those monies that buy weapons go to Rockwell and Dow Chemical, right?
And not to mention, it's in our best interest to continue to support this war, because just like you say, if we don't, where will it cease at?
Except if you're a Republican, because the Republicans say, "Oh, well, we've already spent $47 billion to support them, and we don't have an open wallet policy, for Ukraine." I'm not making that up. That's what's being said by these Republicans right now. Yeah. So they actually have a bill. I forget how much money was in it, something like $11 billion. They have a bill that's been put before the House of Representatives right now that the Republicans have been sitting on. And their rationale is, well, we want to know how that money is being spent. What do you mean you want to know how the money? You can look and see how the money is being spent, right? If corruption is the issue, then you should back out altogether, if that's the case. Right. But if corruption is not the issue, this is a foreign policy issue. How can you have a foreign policy that's just a Republican, right-wing, faction policy that's not a U.S. policy? How can that possibly be? The President of the United States and the Congress have on the record said that they support resisting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You have to pay for that resistance, period.
One thing I know for sure is that we can't allow Russia to continue to grow and just take whatever they want, because when are they going to stop taking? And along with that, the countries that surround Russia should, I believe, as much resistance as the Ukraine has put up already, they should rally and come together.
Countries like Moldova, Lithuania, Soviet Georgia, not Belarusia, but Poland. Countries like that, they've been muscling up. Latvia, they've been muscling up, to support Ukraine. They don't have the resources to throw on the table that the United States has.
Right.
The United States has to help. The United States has been bending over backwards to try to support Ukraine without escalating the war.
Yeah.
But at some point, you just got to say, we got to go all in. Well, F-16's got to come in, and they got to start strafing these areas. I mean, I'm not in the loving, killing people business. I'm not with that. But
well, let me pose this, because I as I was watching the news the other day, they're speaking of China wanting to, and I'm not going to, it's almost like a threat, like they're trying to, come at us. Now, I know Russia and China are, coming together. I think they want to try to challenge us in a certain way. But I think that we have to stand up and be strong, continue to be strong, because we can't let these threats bully us or push us around.
So what you're speaking to is what's being talked about right now.
Yeah.
I just wonder, because I'm a cynical type person, and I try to admit that, I just wonder, the reports that I'm reading in the last 2 or 3 days indicate that Ukraine is making some significant headway against these Russians. In Zaporizhzhia, in that province, they're pushing the Russians back. The Russian elite forces that were in the southwest of Ukraine, they seem to be stuck. They've taken a lot of casualties, according to one of these reports.
Yes, sir.
They took something like 313 casualties the day before yesterday. The 2 or 3 days before that, they took somewhere between 400 and 600 casualties on the Russian side, and so on. So, but it's hard to understand whether or not what we're being told is slanted, because the people who are telling us this is the Ukrainian Pravda. Pravda is the Russian press, so Ukrainian Pravda is just the Ukrainian version of the Russian press, right? So we don't know for certain whether what we're hearing is what's true.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the Institute for the Study of Wars is an institute that is an international institute that is actually financed by American money. They're also saying that now remember, they're looking from the sky. So they're looking from those orbiting satellites and space stations and so on. They're looking there down at the war zone.
Okay.
They're saying that the Russians are losing ground in those war zones. So that may be the truth, but we don't know for certain if it's the truth, because there's a reason that you could expect that explains why the Ukrainians are being so positive right now, because they want more money to come from the Congress of the United States. They need to convince the Republicans that it's worth the investment.
Let me add one last thing, Mr. Hare. As smallish as the Ukraine is, they seem to be pretty strong in the way that they're defending themselves and what they're doing. I think this is the best time for these countries to come together and attack Russia and number one, stop this whole thing.
Right. And remember, the Ukrainians have something on the table that nobody has on the table but them. Their self-interest.
I was about to say it, Mr. Hare.
The Ukrainians, they are in it 100%.
Yeah.
They're all in.
Yeah,
Everybody else is signifying.
Yeah.
But the Ukrainians are all in.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
so
sir.
if you really want to blunt the Russians, you got to help the Ukrainians.
Got to do it.
Thank you all for listening to us and supporting us. Thank you, Yvette, for so much input for today's program.
You know what? Let me say, her name is Yvonne.
Oh, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Who said Yvette?
I didn't say
It was
that.
probably me.
Yeah.
We look forward to talking to you all on Friday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. See you all then.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
Hi, this is Kemi Lopez, and my song Lean on Me is dropping on September 20th. You can hear it here on your radio station, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
Why so serious?
And if you're not here today, you should have been. It's the mafia. Who next? It's the mafia. We next. It's